Hello everyone, am I audible? Hi Neil, how are you doing? All right then. So I believe everyone is preparing for GMAT. And Harshit, good afternoon. As you can see, my name is Abhishek Leela Pandey. I've been training people for last 8 to 9 years for CAT, GMAT, and for all sorts of aptitude exams. Today we'll be doing a few questions on critical reasoning, which is a very important section in GMAT. So I'll be giving you some questions. I'll be giving you 1 minute each to come up with your answers, and then I'll be explaining how to solve the question. So very simple thing, very simple pedagogy. Let us start with the first question. The statement, as you can see, it says currently the number of first-time admissions of individuals diagnosed as manic depressives to hospitals in Great Britain exceeds by 9 times the number of admissions of such patients to public and private hospitals in the United States, even though the population size of United States is many times that of Great Britain. Okay. So as you can see, there's a statement over here which says that the manic depressives who get first time admissions in Great Britain, it exceeds by 9 times. That means it is 10 times actually of such patients in US. Even though population size of US is many times. Okay, all right. So what does it mean? Now, if we look at the question, which of the following, if true, would be most useful to an attempt to explain the situation described above? Now, here's the problem. That the population of US is many times that of Britain. Still, the number of first time admissions in Britain is more by a huge margin. So how would you try to explain the situation? All right, so come up with your answers. Well, the first option says the term manic depressive refers to a wider range of mentally ill patients in Great Britain than it does in the United States. Okay. The question says there's a word, these words, if true. So we have to assume the statements to be true individually and then try to explain whether this is a perfect solution or not. Okay, well, so if you see the population of US is like huge by a very large margin. It is more than Great Britain, but the case of admissions in Britain is again similarly by large margin huge. What does that mean? So if a statement A is true, can we explain the situation? Well, manic depressives. All right. So, whenever we try to answer an argument or a statement, even in normal conversations, you must have said and heard that we say, okay, first of all, to understand this, we need to define this, isn't it? That happens. That happens, right? For example, some people say, okay, I am depressed, but he is actually happy. So, what does depression mean for you? Similarly, there can be n number of uh, situations which need to be defined to be understood. Option A is defining the situation, defining the term here, isn't it? What does that mean? That option A is actually explaining, but we won't mark it because there are more options to go. So let us read the other options, but I believe that A has to be correct. I'll just put a question mark, just a minute. Just a minute. Well, so I'll just put a question mark on the first option because that can be true. But before reading the other options, I cannot be really sure. Okay, coming to statement B. The admission rate in the US includes those individuals who visit clinics for the first time as well as those who are admitted directly to the hospitals. Now, this thing is out of context. It's already given that you're talking about first time admissions only and nothing else. Third statement. A small percentage of patients diagnosed as manic depressive in Great Britain are admitted to private nursing homes rather than hospitals. A small percentage. Okay. Now, if you look at this public and private hospitals, this statement for US, for Britain they have not used it, but for US they have used public and private, which will actually include the private nursing homes also. That is why statement C is also out of context. D, the variety of training institutions in psychology in the US is greater than in Britain, reflecting the variety of schools of psychology that have developed. This is again out of context, no connection to the statement. E, seeking professional assistance for mental health problems on no longer carries social stigma in the US as it once did. Well, even if this is true, the margin is not justified. So A also looks correct, E also looks correct, but what is more correct? Rachit, you marked E. What do you think? Which one is more correct? In between two correct options, we have to choose one which is more correct, more viable, more practical. Option A suits the bill, and this is the correct answer over here. All right, there are a lot of people watching, but nobody is commenting. Come up with your answers. Neil, Sayam, Harshit, coming to statement 2. Question number 2. All right. Sponges attached to the ocean floor, continually filtering seawater for food and ejecting water they have just filtered to avoid re-ingesting it. Tubular and vase-shaped can eject filtered water without assistance from surrounding ocean currents and thus are adapted to slow-moving, quiet waters. Because of their shape, however, these sponges cannot live in strong currents, since strong currents would dislodge them. Both of these varieties of sponge were widespread during the late Jurassic period. All right, Rachit, I just explained why not E. In comparison of A and E, A is more viable, more practical. And even if there's no social stigma, still people would actually, admit them to hospital. Social stigma means you are not judging them. It doesn't mean that you will not be treating them. Rachit, you got that? Social stigma was there. It's not about the medical stigma. Basically, they have to be treated, just that people are more accepting of them in the society. That's why A is not correct. Anyways, coming back to this question. The statement above, if true, most strongly support which one of the following claims? A. Few tubular or vase-shaped sponges lived before the late Jurassic period. B. Tubular and vase-shaped sponges were more common during the late Jurassic period than in succeeding geological eras. C. During the late Jurassic period, there were many areas of the ocean floor where currents were weak. D. All sponges that are neither tubular nor vase-shaped inhabit areas of the ocean floor where there are extremely strong currents. E. No types of sponge live in large colonies since sponges do not flourish in areas where much of the water has been filtered by other sponges. Okay, you should focus at the question. The question is, the question says the statement above if true. In the previous question, we had to assume the options to be true, but here we have to assume the question to be true, this statement to be true. And this statement, if true, will support which of the following claims. So it's kind of, reverse logic. This is how the previous question and this question are different. Well, Sharon says it's C. Sharon, also give me a logic. Why do you think C is correct? All right. So let us understand this. In the question, it is mentioned that the tubular and vase-shaped sponges cannot live in strong currents. Okay, because those currents would dislodge them, and they're adapted to slow moving. Why? The surrounding ocean current. Hope you understand this. So, lot of speed. The currents are the lot of speed in the currents. Sponges, but in the tubular and vase-shaped sponges, it is not required. They do not require the assistance from the currents. They are self-sufficient to do it. So obviously, when they are adapted to do it on their own, that means they would be again adapted to, not adapted to fight back the strong currents, right? That is mean. That means the ocean currents were actually were weak at that positions we had vast shaped sponges, and other we had the other sponges. So option C, the C claim which is made in the option C basically satisfies the livelihood for both kind of sponges, right? Audible now? I think I'm audible. Please confirm the audio once. Can you hear me now? Okay, perfect. So let's explain this again. Now, what does that mean? If both these sponges are living together inside the ocean, that means ocean would be having both kind of currents, weak as well as strong. And that is structures sponges actually lived and stayed. Hello? No audio. Harshit, am I audible? This is what happens. Okay, so I'll try not to face the board. And I can see it in the screen in front of me. Uh, so I can see it in my screen. Okay, so I hope you understood this explanation, this one, that why option C is correct. For both kind of sponges to be living on the ocean floor, there need to be different kind of ocean floors with different kind of speeds of current, weak currents as well as strong currents. That is supported in statement C, and that is why we will go with it. All right, got it, everyone? Question number 3. Ornithologist. Okay, who is an ornithologist? Who is an ornithologist? Ornithology is the study of birds. The person who is an expert in ornithology is actually an ornithologist. Okay, so he says the curvature of the claws of the modern tree dwelling birds enables them to perch in trees. The claws of Archaeopteryx, the earliest known bird like creature, show similar curvature that must have enabled the creature to perch on tree limbs. Therefore, Archaeopteryx was probably a tree dwelling creature. Okay, that is what ornithologist says. Okay, how many of you actually know about Archaeopteryx? When I myself was a kid, I was kind of very much, fascinated with dinosaurs. There was series of movies on Jurassic Park, and then my dad gave me a kind of a photo album, not an album exactly, a graphic book in which different kind of dinosaurs were there, and Archaeopteryx was there, and it fascinated me as well. Do you know Archaeopteryx was a link between reptiles and birds? And Archaeopteryx had wings, had beak like birds, it also had teeth. So modern day birds do not have teeth. Do you know that? In case you also have interest in science. We don't know. Fruity, okay. Yeah, basically the time of dinosaurs, there was a tree-dwelling creature which had wings. So nowadays scientists are not sure whether it was a bird or a reptile, but yeah, we can say it is a connecting link between birds and reptiles. All right. Well, this is what ornithologist says. Paleontologist. Who is a paleontologist? What is paleontology? Paleontology is study of fossils. Okay, so the person who studies fossils is a paleontologist. He says, no, the ability to perch in trees is not good evidence that Archaeopteryx was a tree-dwelling bird. Chickens also spend time perched in trees, yet chickens are primarily ground-dwelling. Well, that is a nice argument. In responding to the ornithologist's hypothesis that Archaeopteryx was tree-dwelling, the paleontologist, so we have 5 options over here. The first option says, questions the qualifications of the ornithologist to evaluate the evidence. B, denies the truth of the claims the ornithologist makes in support of the hypothesis. C, uses a parallel case to illustrate a weakness in the ornithologist's argument. D, shows that the hypothesis contradicts one of the pieces of evidence used to support it. E, provides additional evidence to support the ornithologist's argument. All right. Priyanka says it's D, Sharon says it's D, Rachit says it's C. Harshit, what do you think? Harshit thinks it's C. Well, see, option A, if you look at option A, which says he questions the qualifications, that will be going too extreme. You know, paleontologist is not disrespecting the ornithologist, so he's not questioning the qualifications, of course. A cannot be correct statement. B, denies the truth of claims. He denies truth of claims? Not exactly. He's not denying it. He's just, giving another example of a bird, basically chickens, which can perch in trees, but they are majorly ground dwelling because they cannot fly. And that is what the paleontologist is doing. If you look at option C, it clearly mentions the comparison of a parallel case which can actually indicate at a weakness, at a weak point, at a weak argument in the ornithologist's statement. So option C is the one which goes along with the entire statement. We'll mark option C and move ahead. I'll not turn because the voice will go. Okay, I hope everybody understand that. Okay, I'll explain D also. Some people think D is the answer. Shows that the hypothesis contradicts one of the pieces of evidence used to support it. See, here, the supporting evidence, ornithologists did not use the evidence of chickens over here. So evidence was not actually supporting it, right? The first part is true. Hypothesis contradicted. By what? That is not true. All right, in C, it is very much clear. C looks a better option than D because C exactly says what paleontologist is trying to say. Okay, now people will think, no, but in D, perching on trees has been used as an evidence which can support. Right, this is what a lot of people might be thinking. But why I won't go with D? Why I won't go with D? Just listen to this. If you look at the argument of ornithologist, the last statement, it says, therefore, Archaeopteryx was probably a tree-dwelling creature, isn't it? So ornithologist has used the word probably. That is the key word. That means even he is not definitely saying it. Ornithologist is also not definitive in his statement. He is saying probably it is true, right? What does that mean? That the ability to perch is not basically a strong support in ornithologist's own statement. Clear? The word probably actually kills option D, which again probably you must have missed. Clear? Is that clear? Fruity, this topic is critical reasoning. Pushkar, twin tube. And that is why option C goes along with this statement. Who got it correct? Nisaruddin, Mayank, Rachit, well done. Coming to next question. Consumer advocate. Your soft drink product contains high levels of an amino acid linked to decreased brain functioning. Therefore, your product should be taken off the market. What is amino acid? Anyone? It's the building block of proteins. Soft drink company manager says, our product is for consumer use. We use a production process that reduces levels of that amino acid. The bolded phrases play which of the following roles in the arguments above? Which one are bolded? The last statement of consumer advocate as well as soft drink company manager. Okay, can you see the bolded statements? There are two of them. The last line, when consumer advocate says your product should be taken off the market, that is bolded. And the second statement is, we use a production process that reduces level of that amino acid. All right, so option A says the first phrase states the advocate's premise and the second phrase reveals the manager's premise. Well, to answer this, whether A is correct or not, what should we know? What is premise? Premise is basically any statement, any proposition through which we can infer another statement. All right. So if you look at the first statement, it's not basically a premise. It is majorly it's basically looks like a conclusion or an inference. It's not the premise. Premise also always has to be the reason. Clear? So we would not mark A as the answer. Coming to B, the first phrase expresses the advocate's conclusion and the second phrase reveals the manager's conclusion. Conclusion is, again, as I said, this can be inferred but not concluded, because conclusion is actually a very strong statement. You know, these are basically the suggestions made by both the guys, both the people. If you look at C, it says the first phrase constitutes evidence for the advocate's position, and second phrase contains the manager's conclusion. Well, do you think that manager has concluded? He's just saying we use the production process that reduces levels of that amino acid. So if you look at option C, the second part of option C is not correctly explained. It's not manager's conclusion. It's just a statement. It's basically just a kind of an evidence. Looking at option D, the first phrase expresses the advocate's position. Yeah, advocate's position is, okay, you should take it off the market. And second phrase contains the manager's evidence for an opposing view. All right. So manager is giving an evidence, as I mentioned while explaining option C. So option D goes in flow with the option D looks most correct to me. If you look at option E, it says first phrase contains the advocate's conclusion. Second reveals the manager's evidence for a similar point of view. Exactly, no, because it's not a similar point of view, it's opposing view. All right. Option D supports the entire solution to the question. Great, all of you have marked D. Well done, guys. Let us move on to the next question. It is true of both men and women that those who marry as young adults live longer than those who never marry. Wow. This does not show that marriage causes people to live longer, since, as compared with other people of the same age, young adults who are about to get married have fewer of the unhealthy habits that can cause a person to have a shorter life, most notably smoking and immoderate drinking of alcohol. Okay. Now, question says, which of the following, if true, most strengthens the argument above? We need to strengthen the argument. Priyanka, you missed a similar point. Yeah, this is what happens, you know, we have to be really focused while reading the question and the answers. Okay, so here the first statement says, marriage tends to cause people to engage less regularly in sports that involve risk of bodily harm. Okay. So if this is true, would it strengthen the argument? Now, this sounds stupid, but we have to assume it is true that marriage actually tends to cause people to engage less in sports and involve risk of bodily harm. But you know what? Even if this is true, the risk of bodily harm, people who engage in such sports do not actually get harmed every time. The risk of bodily harm is very low. That is why option A is not the definitive argument which can strengthen the given proposition. So we'll not choose A, we'll go on with, let's read B. A married person who has an unhealthy habit is more likely to give up that habit than a person with the same habit who is unmarried. Wow. So if we assume this to be true, does it strengthen the argument? Kind of, but we should read the other options also, because B looks like, you know, kind of partially correct, but let us read the other options also. See, A person who smokes is much more likely than a non-smoker to marry a person who smokes at the same time of marriage, and the same is true for people who drink alcohol immoderately. Okay, so if this is true, see, even if this is true, it will not strengthen the argument above. Why? Because option C is just talking about the smoking and drinking habits. It's not talking about the harms due to smoking and drinking. That is where option C is. Even if it looks like connected to the argument, it is not connected because it doesn't talk about the harm caused by smoking or drinking. Coming to option D. Among people who marry as young adults, most of those who give up an unhealthy habit after marriage do not resume the habit later in life. Okay, let us read E also. Among people who as young adults neither drink alcohol immoderately nor smoke, those who never marry live as long as those who marry. Option E looks like the most correct argument to me. Now I'll tell you why. See, the argument is not about some magic happens and all the married men and women, they are saints and all that stuff. No, it is not like that. The major argument is that when the young age, when people are younger, they do not have the fixed habits of drinking and smoking, and that is why they live longer. That is what the argument is. Here the argument is not about marriage, it is about the habits of drinking and smoking. Option A talks about the habit of people who are married as well as unmarried. So people who are not used to these habits, and even if they are not married, if they are living longer, then the statement would actually be strengthened. Understood? The statement is not about marriage, it is about the people when they get married, they have less tendency to fall in for habits of smoking and drinking. So argument here is the habit, not the marriage, and that is why option E actually strengthens the given argument. I hope this is clear to everyone. Is this clear? Is that clear, guys? Fruity, my voice like Salman Khan. Oh, seriously? Okay, I would like to take it as a compliment. Thanks. Some people say it's like Saif Ali Khan. Whatever. Anyways, Nisaruddin, you said B is more suitable. Not really. If you look at this statement, the question problem statement again, you will realize that the statement, the problem is not about marriage, it's about the habits. Coming to next. Yeah, Rachit, let me read your query. Need to consider habits. Okay. Let us read the question again. It says, it is true that both men and women that who marry as young adults live longer than those who never marry. This does not show that marriage causes people to live longer. Already in the question it is given. Since as compared with other people of the same age, young adults who are about to get married have fewer of the unhealthy habits that can cause a person to have a shorter life, most notably smoking and immoderate drinking of alcohol. So what is the argument? The argument here is that it is not, the second line is the argument. This does not show the marriage cause people to live longer. That is not the thing. It's about the people of the same age who marry or do not marry, doesn't matter, but they are not prone to the bad habits. That is what the argument is. All right, Rachit. Well, coming to the next problem. Distance learning offers a potentially lucrative option for learning institutions. Money that would otherwise be spent on classroom space, parking facilities, climate control, and other particulars associated with providing a location specific service can be diverted to marketing and quality control, two crucial factors that can drive new business. Okay. Which of the following can be correctly inferred from these statements above? It's an inference based question. Priyanka has already answered it. She says A is the answer. The first option says costs associated with offering distance learning are lower than those of other instruction methods. It's a classic case of iQuanta. We and I should not reveal the numbers, but I'll tell you what. I'm not promoting iQuanta. I'm just telling you something which supports option A. As we are giving you, online learning, distance learning, we do not have the, classrooms to get students here, and they will sit. There'll be costs of climate control, like air conditioners can be there, the the seats, the chairs, the boards. Moreover, lost of different classrooms in which 50 people can sit, and those 50 will be trained by one teacher. So a lot of teachers are required. All those things are required, and because of that, iQuanta is the most profitable online MBA entrance institute. Okay, I just gave you that detail, but not the numbers. I'm not allowed to do that. Option A is kind of looks very much comparable to us. But let us look at option B also. Online classes are more convenient for both instructors and students. There are classes held at specific geographic locations. Option B looks correct, but it cannot be correctly inferred because it is not talking about the money, the cost. See, distance learning does not require climate control parking facilities. Again, it is not, option C is not comprehensive enough. It's not taking into account everything. That is why option C is partially correct. We will not go with that. D, most types of instruction can be effectively conducted in an online setting. Partially correct. E, computers and internet access are uniformly available to people in the developed world. So all looks out of context. It is an easy question. Everybody can answer. Option A is the correct one. Okay, we need to infer. Option C is not correct. What do you infer from all this is the problem statement talks about climate control, all that stuff. What is inference? Derivation of something which is unknown from the known. Something which is known, you derive something that is unknown. So option A is the correct inference over here. Pushkar, got it? Others, nobody has answered it. Coming to next question. Company X experienced a significant loss of market share over a number of years. To strengthen its market position, the company decided 2 years ago to increase the percentage of total revenue devoted to research and development. The following year, the company's market share increased by 10%. In response, company management further increased the amount of money devoted to research and development. Which of the following investigations is most likely to yield significant information that would help evaluate whether the company's decision to further increase the research and development budget was warranted? Option A says determining how many new products. Okay, do it on your own. Tell me what will be the correct answer. Priyanka says D, Sharon says C, Khushi says D. Okay, I would like all of you to give your reasoning behind this. This is a difficult question, I must say. Tell me the reasoning. Why do you think? What do you think is the correct answer? Come up with your explanations also. I'm waiting. Priyanka, Sharon, Khushi, Pushkar, why do you think what you think is correct? Harshit says market share can also increase if competitors withdraw. Exactly, Harshit. That's right. And that is why option C is correct over here. The company needs to do more research so as to know whether the other competitors have withdrawn or not, because you know the market share can increase even if other competitors have withdrawn. That is why option C is the most correct one. Cool, Sharon. Sharon has given the proper explanation, and so has Harshit. Well done. C is the correct answer over here. All right, great. That's a good reasoning, Sharon. Priyanka, production budget, if they, okay, let's understand it this way. Why option D is not correct? Because when they increased the R&D in the previous year, they must have taken into account the amount of production, isn't it? That is why it's not required again. Well, there's a slide which talks about what iQuanta GMAT course offers. There are 35 plus live hours of quants and verbal, both. 200 plus recorded videos are there in quants, 1500 plus questions. Live practice sessions are there which happen on Friday every night. Verbal has 120 plus recorded videos, 1500 plus questions and live practice sessions. IR, which is very important, integrated reasoning, has 8 plus conceptual and application videos, 10 plus practice questions. And analytical writing, we have 3 conceptual videos. These are people who are actively involved in GMAT course. One of them is me, the second one. And I have scored 770 in GMAT. I did my prime number certification from Kyoto University, that is in Japan. So in case anybody is interested in knowing about that stuff, you can connect to me. Anyways, going on to the next question. Tigers can be classified as either good hunter or bad hunter, but not both. Good hunters can chase and kill prey that weigh up to half their body weight. All good hunters have a high muscle to fat ratio. Most wild tigers are good hunters, but some domestic tigers are good hunters as well. Well, Priyanka, if I think you watch Tarantino's movies, how many of you watch Tarantino's movies? Rachit, that is not on me to decide. You'll have to talk to the sales team. Well, so I'm asking how many of you watch Tarantino's movies? Quentin Tarantino is a director, Hollywood director. In his movies, he is basically director and a writer, and he thinks of himself as a better writer than a director. And the kind of statement is mentioned over here looks very much similar to the way of writing of Quentin Tarantino. In case you watch his movies like Pulp Fiction, Kill Bill. In Kill Bill, there is a scene in which the actor talks about black mamba snakes in the similar way as tigers are being talked about in this question. It just came to my mind. I thought I would share with you. If you can also relate to it, just tell me yes or no. Well, if the statements above are true, which one of the following must also be true? A small number of domestic tigers and wild tigers have a low muscle to fat ratio. All tigers that have a high muscle to fat ratio can kill prey that weigh up to half their body weight. Some tigers that have a high muscle to fat ratio are not good hunters. D. Some tigers that have a high muscle to fat ratio are domestic. E. All tigers that are bad hunters have a low muscle to fat ratio. It's an easy question. Tell me what you think the answer is. Well, the above statements talk about that good hunters have a high muscle to fat ratio and some domestic tigers are also good hunters. What does that mean? What does that mean? That means some domestic tigers also have high muscle to fat ratio, isn't it? Can we say that? Can we say that? You know, in the problem statement, everything is definite. What? The tigers are either good hunters or bad hunters. Good hunters can chase their prey way up to half their body weight. All good hunters have high muscle to fat ratio. Now, what does that mean? All these things are definitive. But in the last statement, it says some domestic tigers are good hunters as well. So we need to understand that why some domestic tigers also are good hunters, because they might be having high muscle to fat ratio. Now this thing is covered in option D, which talks about some tigers that have high muscle to fat ratio are actually domestic. So option D is the correct answer over here. Is that clear? The problem statement was about why some domestic tigers are also good hunter, because they have used the word as well. Some, but and as well. But some domestic tigers are good hunters as well. Right? Here, if you see, but some domestic tigers. So this is the statement which we actually should be explaining, which is given in option D. Clear? Coming to next. Researchers have long been trying to understand why the consumption of opium makes one sleepy. How many of you have tried opium? I'm not promoting drugs, but I've seen that in Rajasthan, it's a custom in Rajasthan that the young kids, babies, infants basically, when they cry, the mothers or the family put a small amount of opium in their mouth and they sleep. Do you know that? Anybody knows that? In Rajasthan, it is a very, I would say, a widespread custom. Well, researchers have long been trying to understand why the consumption of opium makes one sleepy. A group of researchers has recently concluded that opium is sleep-inducing because it has soporific qualities. Which of the following parallels the flaw in the reasoning above? What are soporific? Anyone? What do we mean by soporific? Something which induces sleep, that is soporific. You know, sleep-inducing qualities. Yeah, Rashid? Yes, that happens in Rajasthan. If you have any friends there, you can just ask them. Okay. It's a difficult question. We have to draw a parallel. The first statement says, the student performed poorly in the test because he did not study for it. Okay, let us read all the options first. B, it is dark at night because of the absence of the sun. C, the new car has a powerful engine, so it must also have powerful brakes. D, airplanes are able to fly because of their aerodynamic shape. E, the price of company stock has not appreciated because the company stock price has remained stagnant. All right. Which one draws the similar parallel? Priyanka, really? I did not know that. Samuel Taylor Coleridge. Talking about him only, right? Well. So, now this is very funny statement. It says, I'll just explain it in Hindi once. अफीम, ओपियम इज अफीम, बहुत दिनों से लोग परेशान हैं जानने के लिए कि अफीम खाने से नींद क्यों आती है. रिसर्च की गई और मालूम पड़ा कि अफीम में नींद लाने वाली क्वालिटीज होती हैं. Now, is it making any sense? It's very stupid research, isn't it? So, नींद क्यों आती है? क्योंकि नींद आने वाले सब्सटेंस उसके अंदर होते हैं. Now, this is such a plain statement. It sounds like same as तुम बदतमीज हो क्योंकि तुम्हें तमीज नहीं है. Do you get that? तुम बदतमीज क्यों हो? क्योंकि तुम्हें तमीज नहीं है. So, this kind of statement is given in the problem statement. If you look at option E talks about same thing. The prices have not increased because prices have been stagnant. Right? तुम सुंदर हो क्योंकि तुम्हारी शक्ल अच्छी है. Is it any kind of reasoning? So this is the parallel which is being drawn in option E. The prices are not increasing because prices are stagnant. Got it? Is it clear to everyone? Option E will be the correct answer. Everyone, is that clear? Just put a yes in the comment box so that I understand that you are getting what I'm saying over here. Harshit, well done, it's E. Rashid, no. You know what? B still has some kind of reasoning. The sun is not there, therefore it is dark. The other ways to of darkness as well. If something covers the sun, it will be dark, isn't it, Rachit? Like even in the daytime, when there is solar eclipse, so darkness has got a lot of reasons, but E will be most suitable. Got it, Rachit? Coming to the next one. In response to viral infection, the immune systems of mice typically produce antibodies that destroy the virus by binding to proteins on its surface. This is what happens. I think after this COVID pandemic era, our generation has witnessed it in our young ages, the pandemic era. And we know a lot about viruses, don't we? How viruses can be made dormant. You know, they have protein on the surface, and that is where the proteins are being killed so that they become dormant. All that stuff, we kind of relate to it very easily nowadays. So coming back to the question, in response to viral infection, the immune systems of mice typically produce antibodies that destroy the virus by binding to proteins on its surface. Mice infected with the herpes virus generally develop keratitis, a degenerative disease affecting part of the eye. Since proteins on the surface of cells in this part of the eye closely resemble those on the herpes virus surface, scientists hypothesize that these cases of keratitis are caused by antibodies to the herpes virus. Which of the following, if true, most helps to support the scientists' reasoning? This is the last question for today. Let's do it. Well, option A says, so basically the question is about if this problem statement is true, which of the following options would actually support the reasoning. Option A says other types of virus have surface proteins that closely resemble proteins found in various organs of mice. This thing talks only about the eyes, not the other organs. That is why we won't go with option A, right? This is how we need to think, this is how we need to think. B, mice that are infected with the herpes virus but do not develop keratitis produce as many antibodies as infected mice that do develop keratitis. This thing will not support the reasoning, it will actually weaken the reasoning, right? Option will actually weaken the reasoning, we not go with B. C says mice infected with a new strain of herpes virus that has different surface proteins did not develop keratitis. Now this will actually support the reasoning, wasn't it? New strain of herpes virus which is not a similar protein. In that case, the mice are not developing keratitis. their eyes are not getting infected. What does that mean? That means the reasoning was actually correct. The protein in the eyes of mice was very much similar to the surface proteins on the virus, herpes virus. So option C actually supports the scientist's reasoning. What do you think? If you look at option D, it says mice that have never been infected with herpes virus can sometimes develop it. This actually weakens the argument, not strengthens. It doesn't support. E, there are mice that are unable to form antibodies in response to herpes infections, and these mice contract herpes at roughly the same rate as other mice. This thing is not talking about the reasoning of eye infection, it just talks about the herpes infection. That is why E is not comprehensive enough. We will go with option C as the correct answer. Is that clear, everyone? Is that clear? Well, as I said, this was the last question for today, and we discussed some really interesting critical reasoning questions. These questions are not basically language based. They are purely logical. Of course, we need language to understand this question because there's some technical terms which might be there, but at the root of it, critical reasoning is all about logic and nothing else. So I hope you enjoyed this session. You got to know a lot of things. A lot of knowledge addition has been done, but at the same time you must have also learned that how to look at the keywords and how to understand, get to a conclusion, get to the solution by keeping keywords in mind. Okay, this is very important. So at this note, I would like you to give a feedback of this session about the things that you like, the things that you think should be improved, any suggestions and any kind of similar sessions that you want me to conduct. I shall do that. So Rachit says give some tips for GMAT. Rachit, this is a very vague question. It requires a lot of tips. Well, if I sum up within 2 lines, I would say for GMAT, the best way is to practice as much as you can and write at least 5 mocks before giving the real GMAT. Moreover, also jot down the colleges, the continents where you want to go, the requirements, everything should be there. So for GMAT, it is more about research and research. More you research about the colleges you want to go, more you'll get the information. That is the most important part. And once you are through that, okay, you want to go into this field of management, or you want to go to this college or this continent, your finances are ready, everything is sorted, then you start thinking about how to prepare for GMAT. So first step, I told you, and for preparation, the best way is to solve as many mocks as you can, go to some mentors, and also try to learn new words. So your vocabulary should actually improve. At least learn 500 new words. We have a list for that also. You can, all the people who are preparing you for GMAT have these kind of lists. Moreover, if you want to get in touch with me or my team, you can just visit the site or maybe call someone from the sales team. That is what you can do. All right then, I really enjoyed this thing. Critical reasoning is my favorite part of GMAT, and we'll have more such sessions. Take care, enjoy your weekend, go and watch some movies. Bye bye, take care.